Hello, my name is Maria from mathmammoth.com. In this lesson, we're going to continue studying the slope-intercept form of lines, or the slope-intercept equation. First of all, you see here in the grid two lines. Write an equation for each line now. Do it first yourself. Let's look at this green line first. If you remember, the basic form of the equation, the slope-intercept form of the equation is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. It is where the line intersects the y-axis. And for this green line, we can easily see it's right here. The y-intercept is exactly 2. What about the slope? What is the slope of this green line? Well, we can draw a triangle for the rise and run. Run, rise is 2 over 1, or just 2. So that is the equation, y equals 2x plus 2. Then the blue line, it is descending, so its slope is negative. Where does it cross the y-axis? At negative 1. So we get negative 1 for the b. And then the slope, again, we can draw our triangle. Here's another point at the grid lines. So we have a rise, actually a descent, and run 3. So rise or descent over run is minus 2/3. So that is the equation, but we can simplify it just a little bit. So that we just write minus 1 here at the end. Okay, we have looked at this before a little bit also. We have here a formula for calculating the slope from the coordinates of 2 points. Remember, slope is the same as the rate of change. It is the change in y values over the change in x values. And if we have 2 points, x1, y1, and then x2, y2, we subtract the y values and over or divide them by the difference in the x values. And notice that we need to take, here it is the 0.2 minus 0.1, okay? In the same order at the top and the bottom. So for example, for these points, if we have a line through them, what is the slope? Look at the y-coordinates and subtract them, and then the x-coordinates and subtract them in the same order. So the y-coordinates is going to be 2 minus 7. And then x-coordinates, negative 2 minus negative 6. This becomes a plus. So we get negative 5 over, and what's this? Minus 2 plus 6 is 4. Minus 5 over 4. And this is the line. Does it look like its slope is minus 5 over 4, which is a little bit less than minus 1? It's a little bit steeper than a line that would have the slope minus 1. And yes, that is the case. For example, if the slope was exactly minus 1, it would go from this point to that grid point, but it doesn't. It goes just a little bit steeper. Let's look at the points. Minus 6 and 7 is here, and then minus 2 and 2 there. Yes, that is the line. Our last exercise for this lesson, try to do it yourself first. Painting Service 1 charges $45 per hour plus a $15 initial fee. Painting Service 2 charges $50 per hour. Oh, I know there's a typo. Painting. Write an equation for the total cost as a function of time in hours for each service. Write an equation for each service. I have this grid here also, so we can graph those two equations once we have them. And notice that the grid has t here, time axis in hours, and then cost axis here. So this makes it natural that we would use c for cost and t for time as the two letters for the two variables, cost and time. Painting Service 2 charges $50 per hour, so the cost is 50 times t, 50 times the time in hours. And then for the first service, we have cost equals 45 times the number of hours plus 15. Now, is either of these functions depicting a proportional relationship? You should know. Just looking at the equations, we can tell. an equation for a proportional relationship was of this form, y equals mx. Then we've also looked at linear functions, or linear equations, and they are that form. Okay? So this one here, service 2, is a proportional relationship. There's nothing else affecting the cost except the number of hours. The cost is proportional to the number of hours, and the other one is not proportional. Now graph both lines. In which point do the lines meet? And what does that point signify? This one is for the service 2, because it goes through the point 0, 0. It's proportional. And this line is for the other service. Notice it does not start at 0. It starts a little bit above it at $15. And those lines do meet at this point. What does that point signify now in real life, so to speak? It is the point of 3 hours, right? And $150. So painting service 2, for 3 hours of work, you pay 3 times 50, 150. For painting service 1, for 3 hours, if we put 3 into this equation, 3 times 45, that's 120 plus 15, 135, plus this initial fee, 15, so that's 152. So that is the point where the cost is the same for either service. 3 hours costs $150 no matter which service you use. That's the meaning of that point where the lines intersect. Alright, we're all done with this lesson. I hope it was helpful.